the new stuff. All right. So beginning section here, we're just going to talk a lot about certain things that I've noticed in the last 2 months, hopefully correct some workflows and get some feedback here. File management, when job numbers change, right? This has happened a lot in the history of NV5 where we'll start under one job number and then it will switch to a new job number and that will change to another job number. We want to move and not copy that data, right? What's happened is a lot of people will copy that project folder and now we'll starting to have duplicate information on our server. Some members of the team don't get the memo that it has a new project number and they'll go and work on the old stuff. And now we're having conflicting information. So make sure anytime your project has a new job number that you move the data. Don't copy it, move the data, and then simply create a shortcut pointing it to the new folder. So that's the only thing that gets left behind in the old project number. Make sure that we're following our protocol for opportunities and work that's being done prior to job project number assignment. So on the O drive, this is where all the BD stuff is. So under 2268 San Diego, we'll go here. Previously, you guys did not have access to anything on that our BD department was doing. You now have access to it. You can see what's there. You cannot write to any of those folders, but you can see what's there. So we can go in here and see kind of the work that's being done. So if we go to, let's say, SD right, we can see some of the proposals that are currently in work. You cannot write here, but you can read the information so that we're all on the same page of what is being done. So where do you write your information? Well, you have the same structure here with engineering, marketing, and engineering proposals. Almost nothing's in marketing. I just captured gas group. That's really the only thing for marketing yet. Proposals, this is where these previously were on our G drive, right? Under the year, and then I don't even remember the nomenclature, PIR, PIC, and all that stuff. So that's all that information is here. We still have the distinction between private and public agencies. That's what the PRI was on the end of that folder name. So there's all this information. This is where you guys would write your letter proposals, basically, and change orders. All right, so just wanted to highlight that real quick. Any job number that is not a 2268 job number will not be found on our N drive, right? The N drive is just for San Diego data. Anything that is a different job number needs to reside on Panzera under the P drive, right? So any coordination that we do, let's say with the Busco group, would be here, all right? So that's where all our job numbers that are being worked in coordination with other offices, right? So hopefully you guys are all familiar with that and it's going well. When you delete a DWG file, make sure that you clean up your project as well. Under any job number project, let's just take a look here. You'll notice this is a perfect example. Randomly, I picked a job and I've got an issue where the DWG was deleted, but the BAK file was not deleted. So anytime you delete a DWG, go into Windows Explorer and delete the backup file as well. All the BAK file is the previous save of your file, all right? So we'd want to delete this because file no longer exists, so we definitely don't need the backup of it. So it just kind of cleans up our system a little bit. So please be respectful of that. A couple project workflows. For any surveyors in here, be sure that we establish the grid versus ground control for our projects before we get started on a project. That's always an issue, it seems like, but it came up yet again. Just make sure we're well established on whether or not the project is being used on grid and ground and the justification for that. Another issue came up with alternative routes. This was done for underground electrical. And an example was, let's see if it's cleaned up. 61FU project, CAD master. Yeah, this is beautiful. Temp alignment 1, route 1 only, and temp alignment route 2 only. And then we also have a temp alignment. Anybody able to tell me what those R files are for? what's different in each route? I can't tell you. The designers on this project can't tell you. So what do we need to do? Again, this is something that I've harped on for years now. Make design notes in your files, right? If I open this route 1 only, there should be an explanation of what this file is for. What is this route used for? Was it to avoid certain things that were discovered out in the field, or was this well in the pre-planning phase and we were just doing some simple routes? Put a description in there in the file itself, you know, nice bold big letters describing what's being done. And then once you're done with that file, move it to the archive, right? At the close of the project, we shouldn't have temp routes, right? So let's just be sure to clean those up. And that's on several projects that I've noticed here. So let's just be sure we're nice and clean with our file naming conventions and document why we're doing certain things in our workflows. Another thing I noticed was the use of a EXHA file, right? That's the hatching file. We'll typically create hatches for all the existing asphalt and the sidewalks. Make sure that you are creating that file from an empty template. What's being done is, I think we're making copies of the EXTO, right? And then we're never purging it. So it has an example of a project that I worked on a couple weeks ago. The EXHA file had over 800 layers, right? Then what happens is this file gets referenced into all of our plan sheets, right? So then our plan sheets start to have 5,000, 6,000 layer names, right? And you cannot purge those layers out from that XREF unless you detach the file, all right, and reattach it. Well, what happens then if you made any layer state changes, all your layer state changes disappear when you detach the file as well, right? So we're creating unnecessary information in all of our drawing files, and it's slowing them down, right? The EXHA, how many layers should it have? 3 or 4, maybe 5. So you compare that to 800, and you can start to see kind of the effects. For the gas group, there's a couple updates for the gas template. Changes per Sempra, there's a new title block, and along with that is a new sheet set and new fields. So make sure you guys are using the new sheet set and the new title block. It's pretty clear that it's the new one. You'll see some pretty significant changes. And as I mentioned before, again, we have some updates to some of the logic expressions. This time for the alignment labels, we have an alignment label that labels the profile geometry points. That expression needs to be updated. It has the old incorrect one. So if you're working on alignment labels and you notice that it's not giving you the right angle for the profile geometry point, make sure that you update that for the new template. And you have to manually copy those. They do not drag and drop into your drawing. All right. Let me switch my CUI here, workspace. And I just ran the update, but I noticed some things aren't included, so I'll look at that. My next comment was going to be there's a couple things that are included in the new CUI, such as Raster Design and Smart Draft, neither of which show up. So for Raster Design, the important thing to know is menu load. If you type menu load, we'll actually see that it's loaded, right? It says it's loaded, AutoCAD Raster Design, but I don't have it in my tool palette or in my menu bar or my ribbon, right? So let's just unload it real quick, and then we'll browse for it. It's going to be smart enough to know the path. That's the path for it. And this is a little tricky. You would think that it would be called AutoCAD Raster Design, something like that. It's not. It's AECCO. That's the CUI for Raster Design. All right. And you might want to write this down because this becomes important on a lot of our project workflows moving forward. So when I click that, hit the load, you'll notice that it gets put there. And you'll also notice that it's now part of our menu. And it also becomes part of the ribbon. All right. So if you need help with that, I would be more than happy to help you. The reason why we need this is if we do any near map work. All right, there's a program called Nearmap that helps us download some high resolution satellite imagery for some of our projects. The only way to bring those images in is through Raster Design. All right, that's why I'm showing you this information. And then you can simply just insert it as an image, and it does all the conversions for you. Nearmap uses UTM coordinates, it's in meters. Raster Design will translate all that information on the fly and put your image in the correct location. All right, so that's Raster Design. So if you need to do any work with Nearmap, you'll need to load that. All right, layout tools. Anytime you go to a layout tab or paper space, no good place to dock this. Right over here. You'll notice that it automatically switches to layout tools, and you'll get these shiny buttons right here, north arrow and scale bar. Please do not use these. North arrow, you'll see that they're there. None of them are our standards, right? And scale bar has been removed, but the north arrows I can't remove because that data resides in your program files and I can't remotely delete that information. Why do I say do not use these? These are pretty cool, right? If you've ever used these before, they will automatically pick up the rotation and scale of your viewports, right? And if you change your orientation of your viewport, your arrow will dynamically change with it, right? We have a list routine that will pick up the rotation, right? But the block won't rotate if we change the orientation, right? The reason why we don't want to use these is it will corrupt your viewports, or it can corrupt your viewports. I noticed this on a project last month, and that's why I am mentioning this. How does it corrupt your viewports? It will zoom extents to 0, 0. That's a major bummer, especially when you're doing plan and profile sheets, right? On 7 miles long. You're talking a lot of hours of redoing viewports. So make sure you don't use these, all right? Layout tools are the devil's work. Autodesk is aware of this issue, and they have not responded for the last 5 years. So just don't use them. Use our list routine, INA, ISC, right, to insert north arrow and insert scale bar. They're half intelligent. They're not as intelligent as these, but trust me, you don't want to spend 2 days resetting viewports. Neither do your drafters. Images inside of AutoCAD. Again, I've noticed that we're not quite following our protocols. What are our protocols for inserting images in AutoCAD files? Chirp, 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 chirp. Don't? No, you're allowed to. Never insert or attach an image to any base file, right? Because what happens when you then XREF that base file, you're then referencing all that imagery, right? And on these projects where we're talking gigabytes worth of imagery, you're unnecessarily bringing all that data into your drawings, or you're trying to open all that data. So what do? You will notice now, hopefully it will be on this computer as well. SD image. There's a new template file for this, all right? You're supposed to create an image file in your CAD master and have your image there, and then XREF that image, that drawing file, anytime you need to reference that image, right? It'll clean up our file structure and speed up your drawings incredibly. Another thing to mention here is why this is a new template is we actually had major issues bringing in an image. When you do map I insert, the unit precision of your drawing matters. And that unit precision, that insertion, what we noticed is there's about a 5 mile long project, and the imagery wasn't lining up with some of our known survey points to the tune of, I think, about a foot or two. And we're scratching our heads going, we know the image is good. We know our survey points are good. What's going on? So the units matter when you do a map I insert. If your precision is only to 2 decimal points, it will only do 2 decimal points in your pixels per inch conversion on map I insert. So over 5 miles, that 0.001, actually becomes very significant on your map image. So in this new template file, what you'll see is when we open it here and we type units, the units are set to the maximum allowable, and this will ensure that your imagery actually gets inserted correctly and scaled correctly. It was a scaled issue. Map insert uses pixels, which are very, very, very small. So these factors become very, very large, especially over a 5-mile long project. So that's how we treat images here. Fortunately, we caught that, but we still had some egg on our face. Since I'm in the imagery file, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go map insert. And I'm just going to bring in this ECW. We'll notice everything gets pulled out to 8 decimal places, which is good. And what I wanted to show is what happens when we rotate our view. What happens to an ECW file. So I'm just going to rotate our view real quick here. And you'll notice the image goes away, right? Has anybody noticed this? We've been working with images for a while now, right? How do I restore this image? That is the question. So up here on our view, on the view here, this needs to be changed to 3D wireframe. Then your image will come back. All right. So if you need to bring in an image and rotate your view, and you still need your image to stay, change your view to 3D wireframe. The other thing that will help with this image is you'll notice that it's a little goofy, right? Not as crisp as it should be, right? What we want to do is actually turn off our hardware acceleration. And where's that? Graphics performance, it's there. So it's this icon here. Just turn it off. And you'll notice things improved a little bit. Performance-wise, it gets better. The image, it still isn't great. Just know that's how you turn on your image when you do any UCS rotation or plan orientation. All right.
What was it that you did?
So I just changed the view to 3D wireframe.
And then for the green,
Hold on.
hardware.
And then I just turned off the hardware acceleration. It works better off when you're dealing with some of these images. And then I don't know if it shows up on the big screen, but you will notice that my screen, my black is a little funny, right? It's a little highlighted. You can change that in your user options under display colors. What it is 3D parallel projection. I believe that's the one. Instead of using 33, 40, 48, change it to black. And you'll notice in the preview that it changed. See how it has like a little light haze to it. So when I hit apply, look at my black background. You'll notice that it changed to black again. So you may want to make that change. I kind of like having it different so I know that I'm in a 3D wireframe versus 2D wireframe. All right, so that's images. Came up to a workflow earlier this month regarding simple drafting procedures. A designer was hand drafting over a PDF, and I just so happened to see it and questioned, why are you doing that? So in 2018, there is a new command called PDFIMPORT. All right, this is different than just referencing a PDF. Previously, we would just reference or attach the PDF and then draw over it, right? You can do PDFIMPORT, go to your file. I have one saved here. And I'm going to look at some of this data. What am I going to import? Vector geometry, fills, text. I'm going to use the PDF layers, and then I'm going to join lines and arcs, and I'm also going to apply line weights. In this particular example, I am not going to infer line types. This will actually pick up if the PDF has like a center line, line type, or dash. It will, instead of drawing each dash as a line, it will draw one line and pick up the line type and put it as dashed, right? Or center to, or whatever. However, this does not work very well if you have hatches in your drawing. So I'm importing a PDF that is a trench section, so it has hatches. So I'm going to leave this unchecked. I'm going to hit OK. And there it is. So this is not a PDF. This is AutoCAD line work, right? Which means then if I need to modify something, which is typical, right? We could import a standard from a city or region and then modify it to however we need to, right? Well, that's great, except all this is lines and polylines, right? So the next command you need to know is PDF SHX text. All right. So if you hit that command and then you select that object, that text object, right? I'll be sure to get that and enter. One of the groups of selected geometry was converted to text. So now this is now text. It's an M text. Each line is an M text. So now I can go in here and change it however I want, as it has now been converted to text. All right. So this could be a very powerful tool. Just know that this is available in 2018, which you all have installed on your computers. We're not necessarily using it yet, right? Because our clients aren't. But to do simple things like this, you could open the program, do your PDF import, convert your text or your geometry to text, and then copy and paste it into 16 and be good, right? So you can save hours and hours of drafting. What's that, Tayway? Sometimes it does. I don't think you would have any issues here. You could always do a save as. Just do a save as 2013 format, open it in 16, copy and paste it.
What sets the scale for it when you bring it in?
It will bring it in as is. So when I do PDF import, you'll notice that it actually has a scale of 1. So in this instance, this was drawn in model space. I don't think it was drawn to scale, unfortunately. Yeah, this was not drawn to scale, unfortunately, but it will bring it into whatever scale the drawing or the PDF was created at. The other thing you'll notice is that all this text, all this geometry is actually picking up the original layer that it was on, with the caveat of its PDF underscore, then the layer name, right? So that's kind of useful too, is it kind of restores the layers as well. If it's used, if the PDF is generated by AutoCAD. If it's not generated by AutoCAD and you just insert like a scanned PDF, it's just all going to come in on the current layer or the PDF layer. Just keep that in mind. It does not currently remember the colors of the layers, but that wouldn't be an issue for us. If it's our PDF, we could just restore our layer state and it would pick up all the colors as well. All right, so keep those two commands in mind if you have to draft any details or modify any standard drawings.
You said that works with a scanned PDF?
Yeah.
Like, so if I scan the
I could scan that and do text recognition and bring it in and all good. So it doesn't have to be generated from AutoCAD. It could be any PDF. So it's a pretty neat tool. Autodesk has spent a lot of resources on developing this tool itself. So they unveiled this about 3 years ago. The first iteration wasn't very good. They're still working on it. So if I go to PDF import and do it again, but this time I'm going to infer line types. See what happened to all my hatching? It tries to pick that up as a line type and it fails miserably, right? I didn't have a really good example of dashed line work, but sometimes the inferred line types are great because it will pick up that dashed and it'll be just one line, but it kind of fails on any hatching that you have. So just kind of keep that check mark in your mind of whether or not you want to infer line types or not. All right, the next big thing here, I'm going to close 18. This has been on somebody's wish list for a while now, and I finally got to it.
How long before we roll out 18?
It's basically ready to go. I'm just kind of holding back because our main clients don't want it in 18, and to convert down, especially with civil 3D objects, is a pain. You got to do like 4 different steps to get your civil 3D objects to not be proxy graphics and to be recognized and not corrupt your future drawings. So I'm holding off on it a little bit. We have new, fresh 2018 templates. They're not copied over, they're created from scratch. So a lot of this stuff that we have, little errors and just things that aren't super clean, hopefully will be eliminated, because let's face the facts, for the last 15 years, we've just copied and saved as on our templates. So they're new templates. If you have a project that you either need to use 2018, or the submitting agency does not require a lower version of AutoCAD files, you can use 18. Just come see me, because I'll run the configuration for it. It's the same startup script as is running for 16. It's just modified to run for the 18 resources. So we will get there shortly. I would say large public agencies, but it's a private agency. They're not quite so on the cutting edge, let's say. So it takes them a couple years to get on board with new technology and new software. We're ready for it. We're just kind of waiting for SD-Genie, to tell you the truth. All right, so I'm going to open a template file. I'm going to open up the DD template. And I'm going to go to my annotation. So this was a comment suggested by Erin here, so you have her to thank. But this is going to speed up a lot of our workflows here. So we have new annotation blocks. You'll notice that this list is simplified considerably, right? We have 6 blocks, 3 iterations of them. So we have one that's just simple annotation. We have one that uses a text mask, and one that uses a wipeout, right? Those were always there. But we used to have a lot of different iterations of what this block looked like. We'd have the DBL number, just the DBL, no text. And then we'd have the DBL with text. And then we'd have the text, no DBL, right? So we had a lot of different iterations of this block. So if you look in your tool palette now as well, it's been updated as well. This list used to be a lot longer, right? You'd have, I think, about 12 different blocks for each iteration of annotation, text mask, and wipeout. So how did we accomplish this? So now what these blocks look like is we have the DBL and a leader, right and left. DBL with a leader and a landing on the leader, and then one with no leader, right? So you just need to pick which one you want. My personal preference is with landing, right? But some PMs here don't like the landing. So use the appropriate one. Or if you're doing a span and you need the spline leader, you're going to use the no leader block, right? So what happens if I just need the DBL? So what you'll notice now is that there's 2 icons here, or grips, for visibility state. So it's a dual visibility, bridged, blah, blah, blah. I won't bore you with the details. But now you have 2 toggles, right? This one is nothing new. You pick the visibility state for the number of lines of text that you want, right? The only thing difference here is now there's an option for 0. So if I select 0, then I would just have my DBL, right? So now you can have your DBL. And let's say, well, that DBL now needs information. Rather than pulling in a new block, you can just change it and go, hey, I need 3 lines of text, and it's right there. Same thing of, a lot of times you guys will do the reverse of, you'll have the text, right? You'll have the text, and you need to add, the client or my PM decided, this needs a DBL associated with it. Previously, what would you guys do? You'd bring in a new block, use the CTX list routine, right? Yeah, you thought that was pretty slick, right? Well, now all you have to do is toggle this, tell it, hey, add a DBL box to it. Now you don't have to copy all of that text. It's all built into one block now. Do me a favor and use the right and left, right? They're developed for a reason. Hopefully we're using it, but in the past I know several designers were mirroring these blocks. I forget exactly why, but don't mirror. I don't quite remember what the conflicts were, but they were not behaving as they should in a mirrored state. So be sure to just pick your left and right drag state almost, if you will. All right, so the same thing goes for all the other blocks. You can toggle the DBL on and off. If you want just the DBL, type 0 text. And then you have the same blocks, same updates for text masking and the wipeout. So for instance, you can see that there should be a line that goes through this. Using text mask, the line gets text masked. Same with the wipeout. It's just a little different. You guys are familiar with this, so I won't elaborate. But just notice this becomes consolidated and hopefully saves you guys a lot of time in terms of running that CTX command and copying information over.
Can we access it but just by selecting them here? If we in like a gas or whatever design template, and if we look at a little here, can we access the same annotation or do we not then?
You can. So this annotation is currently used by our DD group. It's also used by all of our undergrounding work. All that has been added to the tool palettes. For gas, we would need to work on it a little bit because it's not using your styles. That would be the one hesitation. So you can steal them. They're in the DD template, or you can just switch to any of the other tool palettes and bring it into your drawing. But you'll just need to change the layer that they come in on as they come on electric text. All right, now the real reason why we're here. Be patient for about 10 minutes here. Sheetsets, right? This is very, very important. We need to change the way you guys are doing sheetsets. All for the better, I promise. So I'm going to use distribution sheets. All right, first thing I want to mention. I don't remember. All right, my computer setup is configured weirdly. Typically, if it has does anybody know the command to show the gray highlighting on fields? No one? No one? Dang it. I actually need Mark Webb. Dang. Don't tell him I said that. So anytime there is a field in your drawing, it should have a gray background or gray highlight. What's that? Yeah, I thought so too. It didn't. Oh, money. Gold star. All right, so this is what your file should look like, right? Never, ever double click on this and type something in. This is the last thing I would ever want to see happen, is something hard set like that. But it's happening. So what this field means, all this information is tied to the sheet set, right? So how do I create a sheet set to then populate all this data? So I've got my sheet set manager open. If you don't, the command is just sheet set, right? And it'll pop up this window here. And I don't have a sheet set, so we'll create a new sheet set. And previously, what would we always do? We would always select existing drawings, right? That's how you guys would create a sheet set? Nod, because every one of you do it this way. We cannot do it that way. We have to use an example sheet set, right? Because all these fields reference certain fields in the sheet set, certain data in the sheet set. So if you're creating it from just a generic or unset sheet set, none of those fields are going to populate correctly. So you need to select example sheet set. So if you click sample sheet set, you will then see our 4 sheet set templates, right? So this is distribution. So I'm going to select the distribution one. And I'm going to call this temp. I'd enter, Jamie, the date, right? All the good stuff. And where would I store the sheet set? I would store it wherever the drawings are, right? Typically, that is not your C drive. I've made this comment before. If you store it on the C drive, I will make it my mission to fire you. What it does is it cripples our entire system and ability to create sheet set for those drawings. This happened at my last place of employment, and it took days to correct. In 2016 and 2018, there's tools to detach or unassociate sheet sets, but previously you could not do that. And if somebody had it stored on their C drive, you didn't have any access to it, so you couldn't do anything. So be sure to always save it with the drawing itself. All right, so it creates the sheet set, but then I need to add my drawings, right? So simply import layout as sheet. And I'm just going to add my sheet here real quick. And it has 2 tabs, so it's going to import those 2. All right, so then let's check this out. So I'm in the plan and profile. I can then go over here, go to properties, and what you'll see is all these sheet custom properties, right? This is all the data that these fields are utilizing. So if I hit regen all, everything gets wiped out, right? Because now it's reading my sheet set. I can come in here and change these properties. So where's my begin station or begin match line? Let's say this is the second sheet. So I'm going to do 15 plus 0, 0, right? And it goes to 22 plus 0, 0. Profile elevation, I'm going to start at 100 and right. Let's say I have, I split my profile view and the bottom or the right side, it's now down at 150. Profile name, I'll call it A because it's my A alignment. Start station, 15. Sheet name, plan and profile, right? And then I'm going to hit OK. Nothing happened, right? All fields need to regenerate. So let's do regen all, REA. And you'll notice all this data now populated, right? So we've got the stationing along the bottom. We've got the elevations on the left. We've got our match line. If I set this up correctly, it would pick up the C sheet as well. Right now, this is not numbered. So I could rename and renumber the sheet set and give this, tell it that this is sheet 2 and this is sheet 1, right? So then it updates as well. So your match line and plan and profile update, all your stationing updates, all your profile elevations update. It does the split correctly. All this data gets updated automatically by just typing in those simple fields. The last thing I want to see a designer doing is typing this information in, increasing it by 10, increasing it by 10, increasing it by 10. Seems like a lot of brainless drafting that can be eliminated, right? By use of the fields and sheet set. So this is really important that we don't override these fields. Once you override a field, you're basically hosed. You'd have to recreate it, which is very difficult. Like this one, if somebody came in here and typed 200, and then we'd have to come back in here and figure out what that field was. So I could go insert field, current sheet custom, and then you hit it, right? That it has a calculation, right? Because what was our property that we entered? We didn't tell it what the top elevation was. We just told it the bottom elevation, right? So it's actually doing a calculation to figure out each interval, right? So yeah, it becomes very challenging. What it actually is it's the profile elevation left plus 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, plus 50, right? So then what you have to do is you actually have to tell us, well, it's not actually a sheet set property, it's a calculation, right? So restoring those become very difficult. what I typically recommend doing is actually deleting it, reinserting the block, because the block still has the correct one. It's just your instance of that block. So then we can come in here, insert that grid back, and I know that it's 1/40 as the scale. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. And that field has been restored. Obviously, it's not reading the data. Region all. Well, actually, it was reading the data, wasn't it? Yeah, it was reading the data. So you just bring the block back in to restore the field. So if you delete them. All right. All makes sense? Everybody comfortable with sheet sets and fields? What did we learn? Never edit something that has the background, right? There's intelligence built into it, so we want to use that intelligence, and that intelligence is a sheet set. Any questions on sheet sets or fields? Yeah.
So what if I just like copy the templates from your sheet set templates and save this in a project folder? Is that still work?
You can do that. You can. Previously, kind of what we were doing, we were under the template folder. They're now moved. I created a folder called Sheetsets. I don't know if you guys noticed that. This is where the Sheetsets are. Let me go to Explore. You could copy this file, put it in your job number, detach the sheets, import your sheets. You can do the same thing. Just be careful when you do that, because when you do that, it's going to read some of this information. It's still going to have the name of the sheet set as the template sheet set. So just make sure you change all that information. But you can still copy it. I'm not going to say you can't do that. But the better system is just to create it from the template. It's the same thing as to create a new drawing, you wouldn't copy the template, rename the template, and open that file. You just go File, New, select the template. So it's the same thing with the sheet set. You're just creating a sheet set from the template. So it's a cleaner method of doing it. And definitely the protocol we want here is to do a new sheet set from example sheet set. And then, in your case, pick the gas one. Any other questions? Fields, sheet set. Any other question on anything I said this session or the previous session? Seeing none.